Today's fairy tale is by Hans Christian Andersen, the author of The Little Mermaid, and it's lesser known, but like The Little Mermaid, it is heavy on the gore, the trauma, and the Christian allegory. And ghosts. The story is told by some storks who witness it. The storks winter in ancient Egypt and they summer in ancient Denmark, and so that's where this story takes place, both places. Stork families living on top of a Viking hut, and one day the dad goes out into the marshland. If you go through the swamp and you sink down, you go into the realm of the Marsh king. While the stork's out in the marshland, he sees this girl that they knew from Egypt who has come there to get this magic flower to cure her sick father, the pharaoh. She is sprung from the fairies and has some swan maiden abilities. She's able to fly on swan wings, and she's there with a couple of maidens to help her. But once they land in the marsh, the other two maidens just betray her and take her wings and fly away. The Marsh king grabs her with his creepy arms and pulls her down into his realm beneath the swamp. Great black bubbles rose up out of the moor slime, and every trace of her is gone. The storks are like, well, that's horrible, but they can't do anything about it. So next season comes, they go home to Egypt and find out that the deceitful girls came back and just said that the girl died. Then the next season, when they come back to the Viking land, the stork goes back to that same swamp and sees a baby pop up on a water lily. It's the daughter of the Marsh king and the Egyptian princess, which means, of course, that he did sexually assault her. I mean, that's why he sucked her down there. She's still down there, but the baby's here, and the stork is like, I gotta do something with this baby. Turns out the Viking woman who lives in the hut that his family has a nest on has wanted a kid really bad and never was able to have one. So the stork takes the baby to her, and she rejoices. She's so happy. There's a funny part where the stork's like, well, people think we bring babies anyway, so I'll actually bring a baby. But there's problems with the baby. Even though she's the most beautiful child in the world, she has this raging temper. You try to embrace her and she struggles and fights and bites like a wildcat. She screams and yells and is violent. But at night, she turns into this horrible, ugly frog child, but she's calm and sorrowful and quiet. And it's explained that during the day she has her mother's appearance, but the nature of the Swamp King, and then at night she has the appearance of the Swamp King, but the nature of her sad mother. The Viking dad never sees his daughter at night somehow, and he actually loves her bloodthirsty nature during the day. Andersen goes into how bloodthirsty these pagan Vikings are and says that the girl loves to splash her white hands about in the blood of a horse that is slain for sacrifice. In one of her moods, she bit off the head of a black cock herself that the pagan priest, was about to sacrifice. One day when her father returns from his recent pillaging trip, he brings this Christian priest with him. And they've all heard of Christianity. It even says that our main girl, her name is Helga, the daughter. She's heard of a god sacrificing his son for love, but she can't comprehend what love is except when she's in her sad frog form. She tells her dad, I want to have ropes fastened to his heels and let's just tear him apart with horses. But the dad's like, no, he's going to be our first human sacrifice. And she's like, okay. But that night in her frog form, she feels for him. And so as a frog, she goes down to where he's being kept and releases him so that he doesn't have to die. He's like, who are you, you strange creature that's showing mercy to me? But she can't talk back. She takes him to these stables, gives him a horse, and he decides to take her with him because he's so moved by her act of love, even though she's hideous. They ride off through the night, but in the morning she starts to transform back into her beautiful self, and she immediately wants to kill him, tries to get his knife, tries to stab him, but he stops, takes her off the horse, he puts holy water on her, he sings a lot of prayers, and he doesn't fix her, but he makes her start to think about maybe this love stuff. She gets kind of chill and confused and at least isn't trying to kill him. And he's like, come with me and I'll keep trying to help cure you of this demon that's in you. But he's like, you are really beautiful though, so you need to sit behind me on the horse because if you're in front of me, I'm gonna be tempted and I don't want to be tempted. Eventually, they come to these robbers who think that the priest has stolen her. They want her for themselves. And there's a big fight where basically they kill the priest. They smash his brains out with an axe. And she ends up fighting them off and they're all dead, but so is the priest, and the horse got killed in the fight too. She weeps and spends all day building a proper grave for the priest and for the horse. And then at the end of it, as tears falls down her face, she says the words, Jesus Christ, and then suddenly the demon is removed from her and she is just a beautiful girl with the human soul. She goes to sleep, but when she wakes up, the priest and the horse are both there as awesome ghosts. The horse has light shining from its eyes and from the wound in its neck, and the priest has light shining from all his holes too. He baptizes her, gives her an incense censer to hold, and fashions a cross out of some twigs, holds it aloft and they ride off through the sky. He takes her to the marsh where her mother was abducted by the Marsh King, and with the incense and the cross, they're able to raise her up out of the mud in a bunch of lilies, just like her daughter, and she's alive and rescued and okay again. The daughter and mother embrace each other, and as the sun comes up, the ghost priest and ghost horse disappear, and the mom tells her the whole story of what happened. The stork, who has been there since the beginning and is still telling the story, brings them 2 pairs of swan wings so they can fly back to Egypt. First, our girl stops and says goodbye to her foster mother, says, "Thank you for raising me. Look, I'm cured now." And then they both go back to Egypt. The dead priest is there too when she goes to the foster mother, and it's implied that the Viking foster mother is going to convert before she dies, and they'll see each other in heaven. They bring back the flower from the marsh that the mom came to get in the first place. Somehow the pharaoh's still hanging on, and so she cures him. They tell everyone the truth. The swan maidens get punished, and then Helga gets promised in marriage to this Arab prince, and she's happy about it at first. But she wanders out onto the veranda on the night of her wedding feast, and she sees a star getting brighter. She realizes it's the Christian priest coming to her wedding celebration from heaven. And Helga wants to see heaven so bad, she begs him to just take her there for just a couple minutes. And so he does. They stay in heaven for 3 minutes, and then when he brings her back, she realizes that many hundreds of years have passed on Earth, and like the palace is in dust and everyone's dead. Helga prays, and her body crumbles to dust, and her soul, even more beautiful and full of light, rises up to heaven, and she gets to stay there forever now. And she's happy about that. It's a happy ending. Much like the Little Mermaid and the Red Shoes and the girl who trod on the loaf. A girl dies in the end, but she's glad because heaven. For a fairy tale retelling with a happier ending, check out my book, Dust Spells, a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and my podcast. All the links are in the bio.